Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Rotary Zoom at noon. I want to let everyone know we're going to keep the ambient noise to a minimum. So you are on mute, but if you would like to ask a question or have something you need to say, please hit the chat function on the bottom of the screen. We plan to go about 45 minutes today because we do have a packed program. Before we begin, though, I want to ask Marie Nagy to provide today's invocation. Marie, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Should I do it now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Please prepare in your preferred way for invocation. God of life, you have promised to be with us every day and in difficult days, like in times like these that try the minds, hearts, and souls of men, women, and children. As Rotarians, we recognize and feel the hugeness of the challenging experience of the pandemic that is coming to us all. Death of loved ones, businesses being closed, shattered lives, despair. We must also recognize and feel and act on another virus, the cycle of hate, the injustices that led to the deaths of young Black men and women and spurred protests across our country. We feel fear and we feel vulnerable, but we understand that there is a power in the universe greater than us who can direct our hands and our hearts, who makes it possible that in the midst of all that seems awry, hope joins us as astronauts are launched into space, people are healing from the virus, and babies are born. And we revel in God's amazing gifts to us and His grace. We are grateful. We pray love and compassion as we walk through this challenging season. In the midst of uncertainty, we know faith, serenity, calm, trust, assurance, confidence. In the midst of pandemic or unrest, or whatever may come our way, may we know peace and love. We hold the world and all beings in the light of peace and love. Guarding our thoughts, we choose compassion. Measuring our words, we choose encouragement. Preparing our actions, we choose kindness. We are one with the spirit of peace and love. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Marie. That was a moving prayer. And we are all praying for our nation. One of Rotary's main goals, obviously, is to promote peace. And to all club members, I just ask, do what you can in where you are to help the situation today. We are looked at and we are leaders in our community. And I want to thank each of you for the things you do, the leadership you offer. And I just ask each of you to be thinking about the situation today. And thank you again, Marie. That was a moving prayer. Well, today we're going to convene the annual meeting of the Rotary Club of Jacksonville. Before we do, though, all of us are well aware we're facing very interesting times. We held a special board meeting to approve a voting mechanism and a resolution to help us move forward in this important club business and in this unusual time. Using our Zoom format, we had to come up with a lot of changes because our bylaws were not created in a time when Zoom was envisioned, or certainly we didn't believe we were going to be meeting in person. While the nominating committee followed the procedures in our bylaws, we must also allow for nominations from the floor. Since we are not meeting in person, we think the next best step is to provide a provision for members to email any floor nominations they have to the club office. Floor nominations must be submitted by email to nominations@jacksrotary.org no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow. After the close of the floor nominations, a ballot will be prepared through SurveyMonkey. The link for all members to vote will be emailed to everyone on June 3rd. So Wednesday, June 3rd, everyone will get their ballot. This ballot will contain nominations from the floor along with those we're talking about today. We will then have until 5 p.m. this Friday, June 5th, to submit ballots electronically. There will be no voting after 5 p.m. this Friday. Our first email will be sent to members today, giving very clear directions on how we're going to do this. The email will be sent through our DAC-DB database system. So please be sure your system allows incoming emails at the mail service at dacdb.net. Make sure it's whitelisted in your system to allow it to come through. We'll announce the final results during our Zoom at noon meeting next week. So Monday, June 8th, we will announce the vote. I now call to order the meeting of the Rotary Club of Jacksonville. Past District Governor Percy Rosenblum chaired the nominating committee this year. He and his team have been very diligent in their work, and Percy, I offer grateful thanks. So Percy will bring up the nominations, and I'll let him take over the meeting at this point. So I drop the invisible gavel, and we're off to the races with our nominating committee.
Thank you, President Tom. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Well, Tom, you really did me an honor this year, asking me to chair this committee. And in a minute, you'll all know why. The purpose of the committee is to nominate the president for the year 2022, 2023, and to select 5 directors who will serve beginning July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2022. The bylaws of our club call for 9 Rotarians to serve on this nominating committee. And the reason I was so honored and humbled is the committee this year consisted of, including myself, 3 past district governors, past District Governor Tommy Grimes, past District Governor Henry Beckwith, as well as past presidents David Borey, Tracy Jinks, Bill Mason, and Cindy Stover, and our president-elect Jerry Kelly. Did I leave Brian out? I'm sorry. If I left Brian Cooksey out, I apologize. He was a past president on the committee as well. So it really was an outstanding committee. I don't think I've ever worked with a group of Rotarians who cared more about their club than this group right here. We had a tough job, and what made it tough was the fact that we have so many good members who have leadership capabilities and are certainly capable of leading our club. Nonetheless, we persevered through a vetting process that included thinking of the standing of the members in the club, their attendance, their committee participation, and their financial obligations, including charitable foundation support. We also considered nominations from members of the club. We got a few, and we thank all of you who were thoughtful enough to submit names for our consideration. So here we go. We were, again, as I mentioned, we were very, very impressed with the broad leadership potential that were exhibited in the names that were presented to us. After a long and thoughtful nominating committee, number of meetings, a couple of meetings, we didn't meet by Zoom, but we met by conference call. And we're pleased now to offer the nomination of Jim Agee to be the 2022-2023 president of the Rotary Club of Jacksonville, Florida's first club and the 41st club in the Rotary world. Jim, we're very, you were unanimously selected. You had competition, but you were the man. So we appreciate that. Well, in addition to the 5 directors, in addition to this, the 5 directors who will serve beginning July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2022, Sel Buicksarak, Joe Fullenweeder, Sean Mulholland, Renee Parento, and Scott Eater. President Tom, those are our nominations, and I will turn the program back over to you.
Thank you, Past District Governor Percy. I really appreciate all you have done. So what we need to do is approve the nominations Percy's committee has come up with. And again, we have a pathway to bring in nominations from the floor. But first, can I get a nomination, can I get approval, a second to the nomination of Jim Agee as our incoming president for the 2022 and 2023 Rotary year?
President Tom, I would like to make a motion to accept the nomination of President Jim Agee to serve Rotary year 2022-2023.
Thank you. May I get a second?
President Tom, I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Raise your hand, or you can always put the, thank you. I see a lot of ayes there. I don't see any noes. Jim, congratulations on your nomination. Next, we need to approve the 5 directors put forth by our nominating committee. So do I have a motion to do so?
I would like to make the motion to accept the 5 nominees to be the directors proposed by past District Governor Percy Rosenblum.
Thank you, Jerry. Do I have a second? All right, I see a second. Any discussion on that nomination? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Looking through, I see a lot of hands. Any negatives? Seeing none. Congratulations, everyone. Well done. Percy, I can't thank you enough for all of your efforts, for your committee, and for all you have done. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I know we all do.
It was our pleasure.
So with that, I want to adjourn our nominating meeting and go back to our normal regular meeting. We have a big program today. Actually, let me do this. I do want to thank some people because this was a monumental hurdle to make this happen, to get us to the format of being online for all of this. Howard Kelly was involved. Our ED Sherry, amazing ED Sherry, who has been responsible for so much of this transition, was on there. And I want to thank our board as well. We have been working a lot of hours behind the scenes, and it's been a group effort, and I cannot thank all of you enough. You've been fantastic. So again, thank you for that. Today's program, Scott Eder is with us. Scott has been very active. He's fantastic and has brought numerous speakers to us. And I will hand the mic over to the proverbial mic over to Scott to introduce today's speaker. Scott?
Thank you, President Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In the military psychological operations world and some places of media, there's an old saying that one drop of water doesn't do much. It's useless. It just doesn't do much at all. But combined with many drops of water, they create powerful waterfalls. And our speaker today is a good friend of mine, Joanna Winters, and I think she's one of these people. She has a large heart, great heart, and a very large mind that has taken her from government intelligence, community service, to DOD analytical service, to countering, to many other things, but which is, to me, the most important part right now is the countering human trafficking, both here in Florida, and she has taken her knowledge and assistance worldwide as well. Beyond the bio that you see and we had on the web, and I'm going to keep this very short, Joanna is a very busy person with her free network, her other activities. She's working on her PhD. She's got a couple masters, but just as importantly, she is busy raising a very active and embracing 8-year-old daughter. And probably the most difficult thing she's doing is supervising her husband, who I've known for over 30 years, retired Rear Admiral Ed Winters, who we slept for many, many years well at night because Ed Winters, one of the finest SEALs to ever wear the trident, was out keeping us safe. So she has a very broad background in government and intel, and she has taken that to her countering human trafficking efforts. And with that, I would like to introduce my very good friend, live from Tampa, Florida, or actually Clearwater Beach, Florida, Joanna Winters. Joanna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you. And thank you, President Tom Bryan. And I want to thank also the club leadership for supporting my invitation to talk about human trafficking. I know that this is an issue that Scott has been wanting me to talk to your club about for a while now. And so I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. I'm just not happy that I'm not there physically with you, because that's so much more rich to be able to just see you all. But I mean, this is the next best thing. So I'm glad that we were able to make it work. Thank you so much, Scott. And congratulations to the new leadership of the Rotary Club. I'm sure that you'll all be doing wonderful things here in the next coming years too. So I thought that I would start kind of on a macro level to talk about human trafficking, and then kind of go down what Florida is doing, and maybe more specifically to our area here, and then talk to you a little bit about the Free Network. So human trafficking is a global problem. A lot of people think that it doesn't happen here in the United States, that this is something that happens in India and Cambodia. Well, no, it happens here as well. And so, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. The International Labor Organization estimates that there's about 20.9 million victims of human trafficking around the world. And the definition of human trafficking, according to the United Nations, is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by improper means, such as force, abduction, fraud, or coercion for an improper purpose, including forced labor or sexual exploitation. So human trafficking here in the United States, in a report done by the U.S. Department of Justice Human Trafficking Task Force, they stated that 83% of sex trafficking victims identified in the U.S. were U.S. citizens. So again, people think, oh, it's just foreigners, it's labor trafficking. No, it happens here, and victims are U.S. citizens. The average age that a trafficked victim is first used for commercial sex is between the ages of 12 and 14. So this is, you know, a huge problem worldwide, a huge problem here in the US. But luckily, we have taken some measures to combat that crime and to support the victims and survivors in our community. Nationally, January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And here in the state of Florida, we've also taken some good initiatives. Again, we recognize that January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Here in Florida, well, maybe I should back up. So because human trafficking is a hidden crime, it's very hard to get statistics, you know, to say, okay, how many people are being trafficked in the state of Florida or locally. But what we do know, and a statistic that we use quite frequently, is the number of phone calls that are made to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And we know that the state of Florida ranks third in the country for the number of phone calls that are made to that number. And so we know that Florida is a big area where human traffickers come, or where there is human trafficking going on here. The state of Florida started a statewide council on human trafficking that's chaired by the Florida State Attorney General, Ashley Moody. And this, the council was created through legislation that was passed and signed into law in 2014. This council is made up of members of law enforcement, prosecutors, legislators, as well as experts in the field of health and education, nonprofit organizations. So at the state level, we do have a body that is doing some things to address human trafficking through legislation, and also supporting the victims and survivors in the community. Florida has also passed some legislation where it's mandatory for healthcare professionals to get human trafficking awareness training. So nurses have to get 2 hours a year of training on human trafficking. And also, the State Board of Education approved a rule requiring instruction in child trafficking prevention for students in grades kindergarten through 12th grade. So this has been like a really great thing that has happened here, because one of the things that we focus on, and we think that is really important, is prevention. How do we get kids, and how do we get people to understand the dangers of getting involved or getting sucked into a human trafficking scenario. Prevention is a big piece for us and for the anti-human trafficking movement. And so being able to educate children and educate people on what are the signs, on to be very careful on being able to protect yourself from a human trafficking situation. So here, I'm in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area, and we have the counties that we focus on are Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough County. And Pasco County has a commission on human trafficking. Hillsborough County recently, they've become very proactive and recently created the Hillsborough County Commission on Human Trafficking and Awareness Prevention. And one of the drivers for the creation of that commission is Super Bowl. So one of the things that we talk about is that Super Bowl and these high profile sporting events bring in trafficking, and it's something that, you know, we are raising awareness of. And so one of the drivers of creating that commission here in Hillsborough has been the Super Bowl for next year. But, you know, they also are working with businesses, and they're doing a lot of great things, and also raising awareness and trying to put an end to trafficking here in the local community. So another big thing is that the Department of Justice, they give money, huge grants for enhanced collaborative model to create task forces in different regions. And so we recently got a grant through the St. Pete Police Department, which is in Pinellas County, and they are working with an organization, a nonprofit organization called Selah Freedom, to build a task force. And so one of the things that we found is that with the law enforcement perspective, you know, once the law enforcement is focused on trying to arrest human traffickers, what do they do with the victims and survivors? And so it was very important that we have this service provider piece that's attached to it. And so both of them, and I think the Department of Justice also realized that. And so together they work collaboratively to first arrest human traffickers and create cases for prosecution, and then working with the service providers and the other people in the community to be able to provide services for victims and survivors. And so this has been really great. I did a little bit of research, and they're in Jacksonville, actually, on January, February 3rd of this year, the City Council had a lunch and learn workshop, sex trafficking in Northeast Florida. And so, so I did, near the end of my presentation, there's a PowerPoint slide, and right there is a link to anybody who wants to get more information from Jacksonville, the city of Jacksonville, on the things and the initiatives that they have going on in terms of anti-human trafficking initiatives. And then on January 8th, 2020, Duval County School Board passed a resolution regarding human sex trafficking and educating the schools. And I think this is part of the whole Department of Education Florida piece, where now it's also being focused in the different counties and the different areas. And then, of course, my sister warrior, who I think is on the call too, Kristen Keene, and she is the president and founder of Rethreaded. She's also there in Jacksonville, and she has a great program where she works with survivors of human trafficking and helps them in rehabilitating them and getting them back into society. So let me talk for a few minutes about the Free Network and our organization. We have three mottos that we use. One is together we can make a difference. And so we are a network, basically, of organizations that are working in the anti-human trafficking space. And so we have safe homes that are members, rehabilitation programs, we have lawyers, private investigators, law enforcement, counselors, case managers. We have organizations that go out on strip club ministry who talk to the people who are out in the life and offer them a way to come out, some hope, you know, that there is a way if they want to leave that life. We even have the St. Pete Diocese is also part of the Free Network. And so we are an organization that has several organizations. And so what are the things that I focus on, or that we focus on, our leadership focus on, is how do we bring all of these players together to have a consolidated effort in the fight against human trafficking. And so we have several mechanisms. We have a newsletter. If you go to our website, freenetwork.us, you can sign on for our newsletter. We have weekly calls. All our members, we get on our Wednesday weekly call and we talk about the things that are happening. How can we support each other? Even sometimes just sharing information is really very helpful, and sharing lessons learned. Like, okay, yeah, if an organization has an idea, well, we tried this, a few years ago and it didn't work. You might want to go in this direction. And so just sharing information is so important and so helpful in being able for us all to move together to address human trafficking. We also have our quarterly meetings, which are face-to-face meetings, and we either do that at St. Pete Police. We have different places where we go and we conduct these meetings. I should also mention that the Free Network is strictly volunteer. All of us are volunteers. We really have no overhead. Any donations that we get go directly to our members, or for whatever, sometimes directly to supporting survivors or victims of human trafficking, helping them find a place to stay, clothes, food, emergency. We've given money to law enforcement. We've given money to the Florida State Attorney's Office. So we give them gift cards so that they're able to give help with the immediate needs that some of these victims have when they're taken out of the hands of human traffickers. So on our website, we have a good website. On our website, you can request a speaker, sign up for the newsletter, you can donate, you can see events that are taking place around human trafficking. You can add an event if you're an organization and you want to have an event, we can add that too. Resources, or if you want to look for ways to get involved. So another one of our mottos is freedom starts with you. And normally when I'm giving presentations at the end, I get asked, okay, yeah, the problem human trafficking is so overwhelming, but what can I do? What can I do from my space, And I remember giving a presentation or preparing for a presentation that I gave in Mexico City to a group of bankers. They were anti-money laundering bankers. And they had a panel on human trafficking. And I said, let me do a little bit of research and see what's happening in Latin America when it comes to human trafficking. And I remember reading about Mexico, and I was I got so discouraged when I read how law enforcement and some other entities that were meant to protect their citizens are actually involved in human trafficking. And the corruption levels were so huge. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, if this is happening, how can, and the problem seems so overwhelming, like, what am I doing? So sometimes, I remember thinking at that point, I was like, this is so overwhelming. And what is it that I can do? And I remember coming back feeling discouraged. And I remember coming back and talking to one of the board members of the Free Network and making that comment to her. And she said, you know what? She's like, I get that. I get it. But you know what? You're not going to solve the world's problems. Okay. What you can do is really work in your sphere of influence, and you can really just work on the things that you can at your level and where you're at. And so I'm going to use myself as an example, because if you're asking yourself, well, what can I do about this problem? I feel like I want to help and there's something that I can do. Well, so I worked for the Department of Defense for several years, and in very many different areas. So I worked intel, I worked strategic planning, I worked interagency coordination. And I remember one of the things that I offered to the Free Network, and this is how I got involved, was if they needed help in creating a strategic plan, because I have experience in that. And they said, oh, for sure, please come. We could use all the help that we can get. So I did that. I helped them. I went to one of their board meetings and I facilitated a strategic plan development for them. So that was one way that I started to get involved. And so years later, now I'm the president of the organization. So be careful what you offer, because sometimes, you can get really wrapped up into it. But it's been such a wonderful experience for me to be a part of it. I also, with my husband, we have a private company, Winters Global Solutions. And so we the both of us, as Scott was saying, my husband is retired Navy SEAL, so he's operations, and I actually work for the Central Intelligence Agency. I have an intel background. We work with an organization, a nonprofit organization based out of here, the US, that's working in India. And they're actually rescuing girls from human trafficking scenarios there. And so we provide them also with some guidance in terms of intelligence, developing their intelligence capabilities and their operations capabilities. And so that's another way where I'm using my skills and my husband is using his skills to address this complex global issue. I'm also a chef, so I went to culinary school, and I've prepared meals for survivors of human trafficking, and I've gone to their homes and their shelters, and I've spent time with them. I also baked cakes for the women who go and the men who go out on strip club ministry to talk to them. So I've baked cakes for them, and they've taken those cakes to those people who are there and who they're trying to, you know, give them some hope for the future. I'm also a mom. Scott mentioned that, and my little girl keeps me busy. And do I think about human trafficking? I think about my daughter, and yeah, you know, if you have kids, if you have grandkids, get involved in what they're doing. What are they doing online? What are they looking at? This is such a huge place where traffickers come and they prey on our kids. You know, who are they? Who are their friends? You know, and so that's one way you can get involved. If you can help with the prevention piece with the people who are part of your family or your friends, you know, that's so huge, you know, and so that's a huge area too. You know, if you don't have time and don't want to get involved at those different levels, you know, then definitely donations. You know, we take donations, the Free Network and Rethreaded as well. You know, I'll put their information up too. And also, if you want to get involved through your city, you know Jacksonville is starting some initiatives, and they had a lunch. You know, like I mentioned, our last motto is "Hope anchors the soul," and our emblem is an anchor. And so we say that hope anchors the soul. And for me to be able to speak to you, first, I'm so grateful. And I'm really grateful for Scott for being very persistent in getting me here, because I think that me being here and you all listening to me, really for me and for the survivors and the victims of human trafficking, creates tremendous amount of hope, because you are willing to listen, you're willing to understand the problem, and you're willing to try to figure out how you can help if that's what you want to do. And so I really want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. I do have a video, and I think we have time for the video and maybe the last slide that I have with some contact information. Sherry, do you want to do that, or I can share screen, or tell me what you want to do? Do you feel like we're good with time?
I'll try to share the video right now.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, you're welcome to share your PowerPoint.
Okay.
All right, it's playing. Can you hear it and see it?
We don't see it. I think you have to share. You want me to do it? I can share screen.
No.
You want me to? Okay. Oh, can you rewind it? Can you go back?
Can you hear it?
A little louder if possible.
No, I need to. Is it showing, and can you hear it?
It's showing, but it's not very loud. It's okay. Thank you, Sherry. So the video is really meant to highlight our members and all of the great work that they're doing, and especially during Human Trafficking Awareness Month, where there are so many fundraisers and there's so many activities that are taking place. And so that is one of the keys, and one of the things that we focus on is highlighting all the things that our members are doing and really helping the community to figure out ways to support them. And so I also have one slide that has just information about the free network, about Rethreaded, and then about the city council, if you want to take a look at that. So that's my presentation. If you want me to put the slide up, I can do that. Shared screen, or?
Sure, go ahead and put your slide up, and we have some questions in the queue for you as well.
Okay, let me see if I can. So if you want to start the questions while I figure out the slide here, we can do that.
Okay, so they're asking for web link and resources for the greater Jacksonville area. I think that will be on the information you're trying to share now. Is that correct? We have to get you unmuted, Joanna. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Okay,
You're
yes.
unmuted now. I'm sorry.
Okay, yes. As soon as I put this up, you'll be able to see.
Okay, so that'll give us the resources. Another question is, what do you believe the impact of a weakened economy will have on human trafficking and the efforts of organizations like yours and Rethreaded?
Well, one of the things that we are concerned about is the amount of money that is being donated to us. And so I know that that has been one of the concerns that our members have, is that, you know, with people focused on, you know, and rightly so, people losing their jobs and, you know, and so much uncertainty, that the donations is one thing that's going to be going down. And so that is one thing that is definitely of concern to our members.
Okay. Another question is, what do you do with the person once you've gotten her out of that life? Where do they go to separate themselves from these terrible people? Do you give financial support as well?
Yeah, so there are organizations that that are focused, that have programs in place for survivors of trafficking, and so so we do. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And so, yeah, so we do have some homes that will provide housing for them, and then they have wraparound programs for victims that last, you know, a year to 18 months to kind of help them get off of their feet, or get back on their feet, sorry. So there are programs in place. So we do work with law enforcement in that regard.
Okay.
Here's the information for the city council. In fact, let me click on it. I can show you real quick, because here was the website that I found. And so they did have a meeting recently that took place here. And then they have recordings of the meeting. It was like a lunch and learn that they had here. See, February 3rd, 2020. So if I'll show you, if you go back, here's the link if you want to write it down here.
We'll share that. We'll share that on our website and Facebook page later. Okay, President Tom, I'm trying to unmute you. I see you were trying to speak. There you go.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. We can hear you, President Tom.
Thank you, Sherry. So Joanna, thank you so much for presenting today and for all you do. It's amazing to have not only a mom, somebody who was in CIA Intel, who's a CEO, and also a chef, and runs an amazing organization. So we are so grateful for you. Scott, as always, thank you for bringing such a wonderful advocate to our group and leader in the community, and we're so grateful to have both of you. Now, the human trafficking subject is one that's near and dear to the hearts of Rotarians. Rotary International devotes much of its time in investing in solutions. Recently, our club's charity foundation awarded a grant to Rethreaded. Today, we have their founder and president on the call with us. Kristen, are you with us? We may have lost
One
Kristen.
moment, I'm working to unmute her.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, can you speak about our recent partnership and offer a brief overview about Rethreaded's mission and what your organization has done with our grant?
Yeah, we are so thankful. We do long-term employment for survivors of human trafficking, couple that with mental health. So you all recently gave us a grant and we were able to purchase 2 machines, a circular sewing machine and a strap machine, which is still stuck. It's not Rethreaded yet, it's still stuck overseas. But immediately when we have these 2 machines, we're able to hire 2 more women to have specialty training in these 2 machines. It increases the level of our production, the quality of our goods, which ultimately increases sales, which allows us to hire more women. And then ultimately the strapping machine allows us to work with a whole brand new material. We're starting a partnership with Farah and Farah, and they're donating all their billboards to us. So now we'll be able to take these billboards and make them into new product, which opens up an entire new line of product for us. So all of these ultimately allow us to increase our capacity to hire more survivors, to provide more freedom and change more lives. So we're so thankful to be partnered with you all.
That's great. Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate you being with us on the call for sure.
Thank you.
We are about to conclude. I want to thank everyone for all the work behind the scenes. And I have to tell you, this is it's an amazing effort. And I want to thank each of you, especially those of you who are getting the word out about this format and how, I mean, we're growing as a club, and it's exciting to be a part of. So again, thank you for everyone working behind the scenes. Please join us next Monday, June 8th, for Kim Serbivian. Hopefully I got that right, from the Youth Crisis Center. She's our guest speaker, and she'll be with us to talk about what they're doing. We'll also announce the conclusion of our voting. So to all of those who have been nominated, I want to congratulate you and look forward to working with you. If anyone has anything, let me know personally, send me an email. And I want to also, I see Marie is on the call. I want to thank Marie for her hard work. We are working on trying to figure out when we can get back to those face-to-face meetings. And so we're sending out, and Marie Nagy is creating a survey to help us determine what you, our membership, wants and how we can serve you. So again, thank you for that. With that, this concludes our meeting on time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.